All right. Welcome, everybody. If there's anybody out there, let me know if the sound is okay. Let me know if there's anybody out there. Let me know if the sound's okay. I'm going to start a poll before we do anything, and people can answer the poll as they want throughout the show. And the poll question is pretty simple. Are you hype or not hype? Echoey. It's the same setup as yesterday, so I don't know. The room's a bit echoey, but it's the same setup as yesterday. I have literally changed nothing, so should be okay, hopefully. But yeah, we got the poll going. Are you hype? Yes, no, or maybe? Because we still don't have full information, but we got a lot of information today, and we're going to go over that tonight. So thank you for joining. Shout out already to Sean Stryker, first in the chat, Apex, Rex, Samuel Chambers from the UK. God, it's 2 a.m. in the UK right now, so thank you for joining. Josh, welcome. We have 80% saying so far that they are hype, and I am so hype, I dug out my Custodes t-shirt from the old days. I'm not actually sure you can get these anymore. I think there's a link still on the Discord, but I think they were limited time only. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it. We got a lot to cover tonight. It's kind of late because I had some commitments, but I'm committed to bringing this show tonight, so we're gonna do it. And we're gonna go over everything, even some of the stuff we've already seen, because now we have almost full context. So with this disclaimer, so these are hot takes, literally just read them today. Nobody's played a game with them yet. No points, no missions, although we do have some indication maybe of points. So these are hot takes based purely on data sheets and how they might interact with each other. And the Discord has been going crazy today, all day, as expected. If you want a copy of these ones, of course, you can get it from Warcom. You can also get it in our Discord. So join up. This is Custodes Tactica episode 74. We are talking 10th edition full index data sheets, and let's go. All right, here we go. So just to reiterate for people, in case you've forgotten, our army rule is the martial kata, and this allows us in combat to pick one of these three stances. One is -1 to hit us, one is sustained hits 1, and one is lethal hits. So that's pretty good. You pick one and it applies to your whole army. And as we'll soon see, we have spicy ways of making that better. All right, our detachment rule for the shield host, the first one we get anyway, and hopefully get more with the codex, is 4+ penal pain against mortal wounds. So that's pretty sweet. Just a reminder about those things. We're going to cover stratagems at the end because I feel like the stratagems will make more sense once we know what the data sheets do. So we're going to go over that at the end. Okay, and same with the enhancements, although there's not much going on, too much on the enhancements. Okay, Guardians. So we already talked about the Guardians earlier this week, Monday I think it was. So we saw their data sheets and everything. And so what this is confirmed for us, that indeed the unit size for Guardians is 4 to 10. So minimum 4, which they're kind of encouraging you to take a minimum 3 dudes and a Vexilla. But it's a minimum 4 people and can go up to 10. And of course, you can replace the Spear with the Vex and the Misericordia, or you can replace it with the Vex, Misericordia, and Shield. The Shield giving you, of course, +1 wound. Now, obviously, there's going to be a points cost for the Shield, probably. So, but if, you know, when you make our lists, you often have points left over, and so you're commonly switching shields in and out if it's like 5 to 10 points, and so there may not be a disadvantage to actually taking a shield on your Vexilla. So anyway, so there we go. That's an interesting thing that we found out today about the Guardians. All right, let's move on. Wardens. Okay, so Wardens we covered yesterday as well. Not yesterday, Monday, and now we have the backside of the sheet. And what's interesting is they come in units of 3 to 6 and not 4. So if you want to Vex, you're going to sacrifice from your min unit. And we can't go big bricks anymore in Wardens. So it's only 3 to 6. And of course, they come with the spear, and it just says one model can be equipped with the Vexilla. And there is no Misericordia profile. So if it's a Warden, you can just add a Vex, no problem, does not substitute your weapon. In which case, there's no reason not to add a Vex unless it's a crazy point cost, which we don't know. But, so it looks like the Vex is not sacrificing a melee hitter for the Wardens, which is interesting that there's this difference. But anyway, it kind of makes it a little bit more complicated. They could have just simplified it, but it is what it is. So that's interesting for Wardens. All right, let's move along. So we got our Terminators here again, which we saw a long time ago now. And Terminators, if we look at the back of the sheet now, can come in units of 2 to 6. So no big bricks and no solo Alars anymore. Man, that kind of sucks. You could have a solo guy and a Vex, I guess. And in this case, when you take a Vex, you do replace the weapon. So you gotta keep track of these things. And but yeah, no more solo Alars. You're gonna have to run a minimum of 2 guys. All right. So that is Alaris Custodians. So out of the 3 basic infantry, the general thinking is that the Guardians are kind of smacky. They have spears, and spears seem like they're better than axes at this current time, and definitely better than Sentinel Blades. They can reroll wounds of 1 all the time, and reroll wound rolls, all wound rolls within range of an objective, and they can double shoot. So they definitely seem like an offensive powerhouse. Whereas the Wardens definitely seem much harder to kill. They can subtract 1 from enemy wound rolls if the strength is higher than their toughness, and they can get a 4-up feel no pain against all damage. So that's pretty good. And then your Terminators, I think, are kind of character, monster, vehicle hunters. They get their rerolls to wound, but you know, Wardens, the Guardians kind of get that too. So that's interesting, but you know, character thing. And then they can redeploy, and so now you think maybe the Terminators are more tactical 2-man units that can jump around the board doing various things. Of course, we haven't seen missions yet, so that's an interesting thing to think about for the Terminators. Okay. So now we got the bikes. So yesterday, people were pretty down on the bikes. Yesterday, Monday, I mean. And I think the rest of this information, now we don't have points yet, maybe redeems bikes a little bit. So we can mix and match guns on the bikes, which we presumed. Bike units come in 2 to 6. So you can take a 2-man bike unit for super fast mobility, and you could take up to 6 for a bit of a hammer unit. They're still pretty good in combat. The shooting is okay against elite. It's not that much different from what it was actually against elites anyway. And as we're going to see, the biker cap adds a lot to them. So that's exciting. And so we'll talk about that when we get to the biker cap. So no revelations today on the bike datasheet, except that you can take 2-man or you could take up to 6-man. So far, only Guardians can go above 6. So our big bricks, the Wardens no longer can brick it up, and neither can the Terminators or the bikes. Okay, we're gonna talk about the sisters. So I really don't like how they organized these data sheets, because you're like going through the Custodes units, and then all of a sudden there's like sisters, and then you get to like HQs again. Like it's kind of, the order is kind of messed up. But basically, so sisters, we learned a few things. So Bolter girls, I guess they're all T3, 1 wound, OC2. The prosecutors and bolters, nothing to write home about. Not particularly impressed by the prosecutors. And but against psychers, they're going to be good. So precision, devastating wounds. They're going to be decent against psychers if they can survive. Now, interestingly, you can take a 3 to 9 of them plus 1 sister superior. Now, as far as I can tell, there does not seem to be any particular reason, any difference of the sister superior. It's not on the sheet. There's not a special weapon. There's no ability. It's not actually a leader. So, I'm not sure why that's actually there. But anyway, there's a sister superior and up 3 to 9. So you could have a unit of 4 to 10 girls. So it's interesting, this 4-man thing, because, yeah. So, that gives us flexibility if we want to run as cheap units as possible. So it's just kind of weird. Okay, Vigilators are sword girls, and these Great Blades, we already saw, anti-psycher 4+ with devastating wounds, 5 -2, 2 damage. That's pretty decent, and they're -1 to hit in combat. They get only 2 attacks each, which is not great, but it's okay, and you can run these guys from 4 to 10 again with the Sister Superior. So a big unit of these guys is definitely bad news for Psyker units. So that's really interesting to get a big unit of Vigilators. Witch Seekers, I feel like, are the most, because they're probably going to cost more than the Bolter Girls, and I feel like they're much less impressive. Their Flamer's only 12-inch range, while it could have more shots than the Bolter, it may not, because it's D6. It just does the same amount of damage. Ignores cover, and they can scout. I think their ability to scout is the only thing, but we'll see that their character also does that. So yeah, I just feel like, and then they force a battle shock test with the Flamer. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the scout is actually super important or not. But yeah. They also come in 4 to 10. So as we're going to see when we talk about the Rhino, which again, I wish they just put all the sisters units together. The Rhino can fit more people in it now. So, we'll see. We'll see. I've always been unimpressed with the sisters, and I remain unimpressed with the sisters so far. Now, the interesting thing is, so in the Codex, they really tried to integrate them, so there were stratagems encouraging the custodians and sisters to go together and play off each other, and they had all their own relics and all this kind of thing. In this index, there's nothing. They're just add-on units again to the Custodes Codex, which is fine. They share the Custodes faction keyword, but again, now they're just kind of like add-on units that you could probably just cut out with a pair of scissors. So that's interesting. Design decision. Okay, let's get to the big boy, the Shield Captain on foot. Okay, so the Shield Captain on foot in the last edition was basically the most maligned of all our HQs, except for maybe Christopher Walken. But even Christopher Walken had maybe some use. You never saw a plain Shield Captain on foot because there was no reason. You either just paid a little bit extra for the Terminator, or you were taking the Biker Cap or Trajan. You never took the foot guy. He did have one interesting ability that I can't remember, that you had to pay points for, but yeah, but this guy is about to shine. Okay, so I think the regular Shield Captain on foot is about to have his day. So first of all, stat line, T6, 6 wounds, OC2, standard. His weapons are all standard. Everything's standard. He can deep strike like all our infantry, and he's a leader. And here's where it gets interesting. So first of all, Master of Stances. At the start of the fight phase, you get an extra kata. So now you don't have to pick offense or defense. Now you can have both. Or if you really want to go offense, you can get both offensive ones and forget the -1 to hit. That is so good. And that is every fight phase. And when it's your fight phase, you can choose. And when it's your opponent's fight phase, you can choose again. So that's amazing. And then once per battle, you can do all 3. Awesome. So I think a shield captain on foot just for this alone. It gives you so much, gives you like buffs, just gives you buffs. And so I really liking the shield captain on foot. And yeah, it's just so good. And then he has, all our shield captains have this ability, Strategic Mastery. So once per battle round, you can target a stratagem for 0 CP, even if you've already used it. And it doesn't matter if you have, it seems like the wording would suggest that even if you have multiple shield captains, they all have the same ability, Strategic Mastery, so you're going to use it one time per battle round. Otherwise, that would be cool. But that is great too. So, like, that is a nice little ability to save some CP. So, that's really good. And yeah, I'm really liking the shield captain. And he gets six attacks with the axe, 7 with the spear. So that is fantastic. So he will also pull his weight, not just dead weight. So we'll see what the points are, but I'm really liking this shield captain on foot for the Master of Stances ability. Okay. So Blade Champion we saw on Monday already. And today, the shield captain can join Guardians and Wardens. And so you're going to see, so I'll just say it right now. So the foot captains can join Guardians or Wardens. The biker cap can only join bikes, and the Alaris captain can only join Alaris Terminators. So there you go. So he can join the usual people. Okay, so Blade Champ, same as yesterday. Blade Champ is pretty good because it lets you reroll advance and charge rolls, and once per battle, advance and charge. So that's pretty good. And he can heroic intervene for 0 CP, and he can join Guardians and Wardens as well. So Blade Champ again is looking really nice. It's going to depend on points, but it's looking really nice. Okay, so now they have Alea stuck in here. Like, I don't know who organized this, but it doesn't make any sense. So Alea, who is Christopher Walken's girlfriend, in case you didn't know. So she's got the sister's stat line, so T3, 4 wounds, OC1, and her sword is pretty good. So she hits on 2s, 4 attacks, strength 6, AP 3, 3 damage, and of course she is anti-psyker 4+ with devastating wounds. So that's pretty sweet. Now remember, devastating wounds is all the time, not just against psychers, but obviously against psychers it's really good. And so if she's fighting some psychers, she's gonna mince some psychers. Now she doesn't have precision, but she's gonna mince some psychers. She also has a 5-up invuln, a 5-up feel no pain, and can scout 6. So that is really good. Even if that's really good. And when she's leading a unit, they can fight first. Now, that's good. I think if you're going to run her, you put her with like a big unit of sword girls, and they're your anti-psyker mincing unit. You put them all in a rhino, they pile out, and they have fight first, anti-psyker. Oh, that could mince, like Grey Knights and Thousand Suns are going to be scared of that. Also, when she's leading a unit, you get +1 to hit if you're below starting strength, and +1 to wound as well if you're below half strength. So as they lose people, they're gonna get stronger. And of course, she has the sister's 3-up feel no pain. So I have to admit, Christopher Walken's girlfriend is looking hot right now. I might have to paint mine up if I can find her. I don't know where she is. And so interestingly, she can lead any of the sisters units, and which is kind of expected. But yeah, so Alea's looking spicy. She's looking spicy. So don't forget the poll, guys. The poll's at the top of the chat. Are you hype or not? Yes, no, or maybe. So, and shout out to everybody who's joined us. Sychronos, Adam Davies, KR Quintero. Welcome, everybody. We are just getting into it. Okay, so Alea, decent. Depends on her points. If she's like 100 points, that becomes less decent, but okay. So the Rhino is a Rhino, and the special thing about is that it also gets the 3-up feel no pain against psychic wounds, psychic attacks. So now the interesting thing about the Rhino is it can carry 12 Anathema infantry. instead of 10. I think it was 10 before. So that could be 3 units of 4 girls, or which could be the same or different units. That could be 1 10-man with like Alea in a big blob of 11. So that's a nice transport capacity. It can be very flexible. Or two 5-mans and a leader, or 2 5-mans and 2 leaders. So that's a nice bit of flexibility there. I like that on the Rhino. And the Knight Centura basically is a similar stat line to Alea. They start with the Great Blade, but of course you can get other weapons. And it also scouts, the Knight Centura. And interestingly, when leading a unit, adds 2 to the move and advance and charge rolls, plus 2 to move. So we lamented that they went down to 6-inch move from 7, but plus 2 to move and advance and plus 2 to charge. So, man, like, that's really good. So you put her with a bunch of sword girls, and now they're charging plus 2, which is really interesting. Okay, and then they have this thing where when people fall back, they have to make desperate escapes at a -1 to those tests, so if they're battle shot. So, yeah, that's a common ability there. Yeah, so that's a little bit spicy too. It's really going to depend on her cost. But I'm really liking Alea though. Really liking Alea. Okay, Knight Centura. Okay, so the Shield Captain in Terminator armor. So actually, probably the least excited for the Shield Captain in Terminator armor. Oh, did we skip Trajan? Where was Trajan? Oh, no, he's down here. Okay. Okay. The only reason I think if you're going to take a big unit of Alaris, then you take an Alaris Terminator Captain to lead that unit, because the Terminator Captain can fight on death if it hasn't fought already, which is okay, and has the strategic mastery. So it doesn't actually buff your unit, and so I'm the least impressed with the Terminator Captain, and I think probably you don't end up taking one, even if you take a big unit of Terminators. Now, is the only captain that can join Terminators. Even Trajan can't join Terminators, which is very unfortunate. I mean, he's the leader of the Custodes. Why can't he join anybody? But it's unfortunate, so yeah. So yeah, I think this is my least impressive captain. All right, what's the chat saying here? Bike Captain OP. Well, we're coming to the Bike Captain soon. Fight first is the strongest thing in the game. I think you just have to use it well, but it could be. Free strat. So yeah, he buffs him with the free strat, but all the captains do that. Yep, so this would be the only reason to take him, really. Yeah, and you know, he does pretty good number of attacks, but so do normal Alaris Terminators. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, if he's like, yeah, obviously he slaps as a character, but like, if you're gonna pay whatever, 110, 15, 20, whatever he's gonna be, just to lead like a unit, it might not be worth it, especially when you have to run Trajan, and you have to run a Blade Champ, and you have to run the Foot Captain, and you have to run your Biker Captain, and maybe a Sisters Champ. Like, I mean, you're gonna have too many characters. You're gonna have to drop the weakest link, which is probably this captain, is my hot take on the Alaris Captain. I was definitely the least impressed when I saw his ability, which is that Fight on Death ability. Now, at least it's free, though. Although, you know, you have to roll a 2-up. So, yeah. Okay. So, Biker Cap. Okay, so I think the Biker Cap saved bikes. People were doom and glooming about bikes, and indeed it was a little bit shocking and underwhelming on Monday night when we saw the bike data sheet. But we were hopeful that the Biker Cap could maybe redeem the bikes, and I think possibly it has, unless the cost is too high. But we'll see. The cost is going to have to be pretty high for us to not take this guy. So he moves 12 inches, as we know. T6, as we know. 7 wounds, which is the same as Trajan, and OC2. And he has the usual stuff. And he is a leader, and of course, like the bikers, has no deep strike. But of course, they could rapid ingress from strategic reserve. So there's ways getting your bikes places. Okay, so his first ability is Sweeping Advance. When this model is leading a unit of bikes, because as we can see here, they can only lead bikers. When they're leading a unit of bikes, you can consolidate 6 inches instead of 3. So there was a old, I think it might have been called Sweeping Advance, the old stratagem to allow bikes to consolidate 6 inches was a super useful stratagem for bikes. And again, so that is something that they can do all the time, which is great for free. And once per battle at the end of the fight phase, if they're still in combat, they can fall back as if it was the movement phase. That is something you can do at the end of your enemy's fight phase. Okay, and if they're not in engagement range, they can make a normal move. So that is super amazing. One time only, but that can be so clutch because they still move fast. It's not 14, it's 12, but that's still fast. And especially allowing you to basically fall back without consequences and then move again in the next phase to do stuff. Like, that is super, super awesome. That is like Eldar level movement shenanigans, and I really, really love it. So I think if you're gonna run bikes, you're committing yourself to running a biker cap. So you could run min, right? 2 bikes and a biker cap. So that's 3, or you could run 6 with a biker cap or somewhere in between. But yeah, so that's interesting. And then he has the Captain Refund CP thing as well, which is great because you can use that every battle round. So that's really good. So I'm really liking the biker cap. His points is going to be important, obviously, but man, that one ability makes up for a lot of the bike down shortcomings, as well as some of the stuff we'll talk about later in the stratagems. But yeah, people are already talking about rapid ingressing bikes and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of play there. Okay. Okay, so Trajan, no different from before, except now we know that Trajan can only join Guardians and Wardens. So I think Trajan in either of those units would be amazing. Trajan is has this great Captain General rule, and himself is just a beast, going up to possibly 12 attacks at strength 10, 3. I think it's actually the strongest attacks that we have in the Codex is Trajan. 6 attacks going up to possibly 12 attacks at AP2, 3 damage. So Trajan is a beast. And even his shooting does 3 damage now. So yeah, we'll see how much he costs. Hopefully it's not going to be the heady days of 250 like when he first came out. But it's going to be great. Okay, and it says here on the back, of course, that if he is in your army, he has to be the warlord. So that's no surprise. Okay, let's talk about Christopher Walken. So the much maligned Christopher Walken, aka Valerian, is his real name, I guess. So he has a shield captain on foot profile, and his special spear, Gnosis, is 24-inch assault, 3 shots hitting on 2s, 4 -1 2. So pretty similar, but is extra shots. And then in melee, he has 7 attacks, so like a captain level of attacks. Strength 8, -3, 2 damage. So it's kind of like a cross between a spear and an axe. It's kind of like a halfway point between a spear and an axe. So, okay, fine. I mean, it's fine, and he has a Feel No Pain, a 6 up Feel No Pain, and of course can lead, and he can lead Guardians or Wardens. And he has 2 abilities. So number 1, those stupid things above his head. When he leads a unit, he actually makes AP of melee attacks 1 AP less. So reduced AP by 1. So that's pretty good. When I read that, I was like, okay, Christopher, okay, you bringing some value here. And he is the hero of the Lion's Gate. Once per battle round, you can reroll a hit, a wound, or a save roll. And once per battle, you can change that to a 6, unmodified 6, which is cool, except he doesn't really have any rules that combo off that unmodified 6. Not like he's got dev wounds or anything. So it's like, okay, I rolled a 6. It's like, okay. Okay, I mean, I guess you would just use that for a saving throw, but yeah, I mean, just to pass it, I mean, you don't need a 6 to pass a saving throw, you just need a 4 up, right? So I'm kind of like, that ability kind of just doesn't really make a huge impact. So, I mean, reducing AP by 1 is good, but like, how much is this guy going to be? Like 110, 115, 120 maybe? I don't know, Christopher. I don't think you bring enough. And he's got to compete now against Shield Captain on foot, Trajan, Blade Champion, Biker Cap, Alea. Yeah, there's just no place for Christopher, unfortunately. I think he can stay in the lore. And that's my hot take on Christopher Walken. Okay, so this ugly guy, our ugliest model, the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, is pretty standard, kind of dreadnoughty profile, and has the same weapons as the normal Marine Dreadnought. It's pretty spicy in combat, so hits on 2s with 5 attacks, strength 12, AP -2, 3 damage. So that's pretty good. The multi-melta is only 18-inch range, has melta 2, strength 9. The assault cannon is 7 -1, only does 1 damage, and with devastating wounds. So I think that would have been better if it had like sustained hits or something, or just more hits. And then the Dreadnought is the same ability. So instead of getting a feel no pain these days, so he has a 5-up invuln. Instead of getting a feel no pain now, they get back up on a 2+ with D6 wounds remaining 1 time. Okay, fine. I guess it's really going to depend on points. This Dreadnought still doesn't really do it for us. Doesn't really bring us a lot of what we don't have. I think we're still going to look, if you want Dreads, look to Forge World, and not to mention this thing is ugly as sin. So I still don't think we're going to see this thing unless it's hilariously cheap. And that multi-melta is short range, and you're not even getting the melta unless it's within 9-inch. So I don't really like it. All right, Land Raider time. So we already kind of knew about the Land Raider from the Marines. It's basically, the same. Moves 10, T2, T12, 16 wounds, OC 5. It's got similar weapons. Now, I don't know if our las cannon is any different from a normal las cannon, but it is 2 shots, hitting on 2s, strength 12, -3, D6 +1. So there's some anti-vehicle for us. Is 2 of those, so it'll be 4 shots in total on the Land Raider. And it has assault ramp, of course, which lets you disembark and still charge, which is quite spicy. And especially if you consider, we now know that it can hold 6 infantry, any infantry. So you could put a whole 5-man plus a leader in there, or 2 3-mans. You mix it up. But so that's pretty spicy. It really ultimately is going to depend on points, and also it's going to depend on how it compares to Forge World tanks. So for now, we don't know. But got to give some kudos to the Land Raider trying to make a comeback. Okay, so that's all the data sheets in the codex. Let's go back up and look at the strats. Overall, pretty happy with the data sheets. I gotta say, I've been hyped about 10th and waiting for these rules very anxiously, so I'm glad to see that we got some spiciness in the data sheets that we hadn't seen yet. So very good. Okay. So we have 6 stratagems, and I'm happy to say that we haven't lost any of them to Sisters of Silence. So I'm glad that they've kind of pushed Sisters of Silence as a little add-on few data sheets again. I guess they might get in the codex some love in terms of a detachment or something. Who knows? But here are the 6 stratagems that we have to play with, and they are pretty good. So, Slayers of Nightmares is very similar to before. It's only 1 CP in the fight phase, any Custodes unit, and it gives you +1 to wound against monsters and vehicles. So that is going to be so clutch. And with a shield captain being able to use it maybe on 2 units at a time, and then you got like lethal hits, and then like, you know, I think this is going to be super good and really makes up a little bit for our lack of anti-vehicle shooting. Because, I mean, they said it right at the top. We're supposed to be a hardcore melee army. So, we'll see. But Slayer, this is a great stratagem. 1 CP +1 to wound. Boom. Easy to use. And it's going to be really good. With the possibility of using on 2 units at once. And 1 for free. So, I think this is really going to help us punch into bigger things. And what makes it really cool, ironic too, is that when they then hit you back with high strength attacks, now you, if you're guardians, you're like -1 to wound. How cool is that? So yeah, and then also, you know, remember Terminators get reroll wounds, +1 to wound with rerolls. That's a nice combo. So yeah, Terminators become our monster hunters. Okay, next is Avenge the Fallen. So Avenge the Fallen basically makes it back into the codex completely unchanged. It's 1 CP. And if you're below starting strength, you get +1 attack. If you're below half strength, you get +2 attacks. So there we go. Same thing. And I mean, it's extra value now because we all have more attacks. So like Avenge the Fallen on a big unit of Guardians that just lost like 1 or 2 guys is going to feel really good. Just like it felt really good on Warden Bricks. It's going to be really good. Okay. Charlotte, bedtime. Okay? Okay. So, unwavering. Oh yeah, so someone pointed out all these stratagems. Obviously, this stratagem works on any Custodes unit, so it does work on Dreads. And so when we see Punchy Telemon, Punchy Bertha with +1 to wound, we're going to see what damage that baby can do. But yeah, it's not limited to infantry or bikes or anything. Same with Slayers of Nightmares, no limits. Okay, next is Unwavering Sentinels for 2 CP. Again, any Custodes unit at the start of the fight phase, you get to fight first. So let's see. So far, Alea makes girls fight first. This is 2 CP to fight first. What other fight first do we have? Did something else give us fight first? I can't remember. But it's always great to have fight first. I think fight first is super strong, as it always is, and now they've really calmed down the amount of fighting shenanigans. 2 CP is a lot, but remember, shield captains give 0 CP usage. So I think Blade Champ is fight first. Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, so using this for free with a shield captain on a big, that'd be nice. Very, very nice. So it's nice to have a fight first, which makes sense because we're supposed to be melee amazing. Okay, Arcane Genetic Alchemy, AGA makes it into the new index, although it is no longer transhuman, and I'm super happy to find that transhuman and transhitman are kind of gone. But it makes it in as a 2 CP stratagem. When you are getting shot, if you're infantry, so this does not apply to bikes, you get -1 damage. I'm not sure why it doesn't apply to bikes. Like, all the other stratagems can be used on anybody, and this one specifically you can't use on bikes. It's kind of annoying, but I can see why you can't use it on vehicles or dreadnoughts. But anyway, -1 damage on infantry, so that's super good. And obviously you get more mileage out of things like shields, but -1 damage is always good and super good. Really takes the sting out of multi-damage, especially when you have multi-wounds, multi-wound models. So -1 damage for 2 CP, and of course you got the captain, so that's great. And then we have Two more. Vigil Unending. So we already saw this one in the preview. 1 CP for Infantry. Basically you can resurrect the guy. So we saw that already. That's pretty good because if we're paying 50 to 80 points for a guy, rezzing one guy is a big impact. It's a bunch of attacks, a bunch of wounds, so that's pretty good for 1 CP. Okay, and then finally, Sworn Guardians for 1 CP. In your movement phase, basically, it turns, if you're on an objective, for any Custodes unit, including bikes, or dreads, or vehicles, it makes the objective sticky, and then you can move off. So that's really good 1 CP sticky objective. So that is sweet. I really like it. I like all our stratagems. I think they're all pretty good and have a lot of applications, and hopefully we got plenty of CP. So yeah, and as somebody pointed out, obviously this is good on bikes, especially with their ability to, you know, fall back out of combat or whatever, and then double move and all. So, you know, it's a nice combo. All right, so far on the poll, are you hype? 89% say yes, and nobody has said no, and 11% says maybe. So there we go. That poll is still going if you want to check out the poll and give us your opinion. Okay. Where did my window go? I lost my window. There we go. Okay. So that is the strats. Pretty good. A+ for the strats. Now let's look at this list of enhancements. So we have 4 enhancements only. And I believe, if I remember, you can take only 1 enhancement per army. It has to go on a non-epic hero leader. So let's see what we got. You might recognize some of these names. So Unstoppable Destroyer, the old UD makes it into the index. UD was of course movement shenanigans in combat, but now it is for any Custodes model, well, you know, leader I guess. And if you end the charge move in engagement range, you select 1 unit, and 2 to 5 you do D3 mortals, and on a 6 you do 3 mortals. So this is impact mortals for on the charge, and once per battle, all units within 6 inches at the end of the charge move have to take a battle shock. So that's interesting because if they fail, that puts them at OC 0. Most importantly, so that is an interesting ability, and this is kind of a little bit of a spicy enhancement. So the impact mortals can be useful, and definitely forcing battle shocks in all enemies within 6 inches is pretty useful. So I kind of like it. The next one is Inspirational Exemplar, and this is a leadership enhancement, so makes you 5+ leadership, and once per battle within 12 inches you can make a battle shocked unit not battle shocked anymore. So yeah, it seems like it's kind of meh, but we really don't know how much of a thing battle shock is going to be, and also this could save you a game if it means you don't lose that objective. So it could be big, and I guess we'll see how big a deal battle shock is in general. We'll either make these ones better or worse, but yeah, we'll see. So it could be useful, but otherwise just the static ability is kind of like, oh, okay. Okay, Veiled Blade, again, for Custodes. And once per battle at the start, so you get +2 attacks, which is pretty sweet. So like your captains are going up to like 9 attacks. Your Blade Champion's getting a couple of extra attacks, so that's pretty cool. And once per battle, at any command phase, you have triple OC. So our leaders are 2, so they will go up to 6 OC. So that could make your character important for holding things. So yeah, I think that definitely is okay. I actually think this might be one of the weakest enhancement we have here. So yeah. Oh, and also someone pointed out, so for Unstoppable Destroyer, obviously making people battle shock, they can't use strats, so that can be useful too. And then, yep, somebody pointed out, if you use a Vex, obviously then you're OC7, so that could be useful. We'll see. And then the last one is Ceaseless Hunter. So a Custodes unit, of course, is eligible to shoot and charge when it falls back, which is great. Of course, that doesn't work for your whole unit. Oh no, the Bearer's unit. Yes, it does. So the Bearer's unit is eligible to shoot and charge and in a turn in which it fell back. And once per battle, when an enemy unit ends a normal move, advance, or fall back within 9 inches of this bearer, the Bearer's unit, if it's not in combat, can make a normal move of 6 inches. So this on a biker cap in a bike unit, like this with the biker cap redeemed bikes. Like all the things we already talked about with bikes and the biker cap and what the biker cap brings, now that bike unit can shoot and charge when it falls back. It has that ability to move already when it falls back in the opponent's phase, because it falls back as if it was the movement phase. And then once a battle, if somebody ends up near it, it can just move again. Man, it's like so good. Now, it's not like those stupid dinosaur things in AOS. Like if they end a normal move, advance, or fall back, so they can still get charged. All right, so it doesn't stop them from being charged, but it's in the opponent's movement phase. Okay, but if they come anywhere near within charge range, then they can just move away. That's pretty sweet. It's hard to play around such things. You can't really. It's really hard to plan for such shenanigans, especially with a 12-inch moving unit. Oh, this is only 6-inch move, but they do have fly. So, man, I think this is the enhancement to take if you're taking bikes with a biker cap. It's like so good. So somebody brought up the T word, but like, yeah, Tanglefoot did not make it into the index. We were all convinced Tanglefoot was going to get in, but maybe they thought it was too powerful since they made everything slower to then slow it even more. So yeah, so no Tanglefoot. But yeah, this Ceaseless Hunter super good. Super good. But yeah, if somebody ends within 9 inches, then you just move out of charge range, and now they wasted that move, basically. So yeah, so it is kind of like a reverse Tanglefoot. Yeah. Okay. That is the Custodes book. It's great. So just to summarize, where's my thing? Okay. So very nice. I'm super happy. I'm super excited to play this. With that in mind, next week I'll be playing some games, and the stream is returning next, probably Thursday night. Stay tuned to the Facebook page to find the time and date and time. But probably next week, the live stream game, Custodes versus somebody right here, first game of 10th. Because we'll have missions and points by then. So missions and points apparently coming Friday, so we are looking forward to that. Now, speaking of points, although we're super hype and it looks like 89% of people are hype, the points is going to make a huge difference to how these things swing. So we gotta wait till Friday. And missions, I don't think the missions could be so crazy that it would totally swing things different from they are now. So I think it's mostly the points because it's going to be a swing factor for a lot of these units. Guardians are smackers, Wardens are tough, Trajan, Foot Captain, Blade Champion, Alea, all good characters. And yeah, I think you're going to be wanting to run 3 or 4 characters, all leading units. That's kind of where they want to go with the game, I guess. And that's where we will go because they've made it very difficult. There's no point running them separate. And why not add those buffs? So yeah. Alaris are looking interesting as monster vehicle killers, but also as independent 2-man surgical units, just like we were using them at the end of this edition. So I think that's looking very compelling. I think bikes, contrary to 2 days ago, are looking super exciting with a Ceaseless Hunter biker cap, maybe like a brick of 4 or 5 guys. I think that's cool. Even if you just want to run 2 bikes as a small little unit, I think that has play. Big bricks of dudes in Land Raiders. We'll see if the Land Raider makes the cut at the end of the day with points and Forge World still to come. Which brings us, and then Sisters, I think there is play in Sisters, especially if you have some points left over, not enough to run a big unit or something. You could run 10 Sword Girls with Alea and a Rhino. You could run 3 units in a Rhino that just ferries them around. I think Sisters have a lot of play too, and yeah, I think it's really good. Okay. Speaking of Forge World, who knows when it's going to come out? They say it's going to be soon after release. Originally, it was supposed to be day 0. Now it's going to be soon after release. Who knows? Don't get me started about the whole stupid Forge World thing and why the rules cannot be in this release. No idea. Anyway, also be interesting to see how the leaders get retconned to work with those units, because it says right here on the data leaderships, Guardians and Wardens. It doesn't say Infantry, it doesn't say, Sagittarium or Aquilon, it doesn't say any of those. So it'll probably have to say somewhere on those Forge World data sheets that it can be led by blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting. So will Aquilon Terminators only be able to be led by a Laris Terminator Captain? And, were they written with that in mind? One would hope so. Can Venatari be led by Foot or only Biker Captain? Or maybe they can't be led at all because we don't have Jump Pack Guy. So Shield Captain on bike with Venatari unit, that would be interesting. Obviously very excited to get 12-inch Fly Infantry, assuming they still move 12 inches. So, it's really interesting. As far as I know, we're not getting new models. So, and then the Sagittarium, what unit size are we going to run them in? We've had rumors that we discussed on Monday about their guns, so it's really difficult to know. And then we got Dick Bikes. Dick Bikes could be so good. That Laz Talons could be exactly what we need. We have not heard anything about the Adrathic weapon profile. It seems apparently to have disappeared on the Sagittarium, so I don't know. How good are the Flamers? On the Aquilon. So, but the Dick Bikes could be good if they're priced properly and if they can join us Shield Captain on bike. So we'll see. Dick Bikes may have play. The Dreadnoughts, they're probably going to be a little bit toned down, like with the Marine Dreadnoughts. They're going to move a little bit slower. And, who knows what their weapons and stuff are going to do. Super excited to see Bertha. Can it be the rebirth of Bertha? Whoa! Punchy Bertha, Gunny Bertha, who knows? But it can get Martial Katas, obviously, and it has Adeptus Custodes, so you can do a lot of the stratagems on the Dreadnought. So I think that is interesting. And then, of course, vehicles. Caladius, Palace, and our bigger vehicles, so the Cronus and the Flyers. I don't know. I could do without the big Flyers. Who cares? I hate Flyers. But the Caladius tank, we need good Blaze. Some anti-vehicle on the Blaze would be clutch. And the Caladius is probably going to be around the same as a Land Raider in terms of statistics. Maybe not as many wounds. Maybe 1 toughness less. Hopefully they still go 14 inches. I think the Palace is going to be like one of the new Storm Speeder or Land Speeder type Flyers. A little bit easier to kill, but fast and zippy. So, there's so much unknown in the Forge World that could really add to what we have. But we have a really good foundation to start. We're super happy about that. So I feel like we don't even need the Forge World right now. So it's okay. It's not okay, but if it's a bit delayed, we'll survive. So, yeah. Okay, so somebody asked me about Imperial agents. And it's funny that somebody did that. Because we have that. We have that right here. So we got the Imperial agents, which we already know can join 2 retinue units and 2 character units. So I'm going to fly through this pretty quickly. It's already an hour. Not super impressed with most of this stuff. We'll fly through it. So, you know, the Imperial agents includes the assassins. So I think the Vindicare has play. The Vindicare can definitely threaten leaders, and leaders are obviously a big deal in this game. So being able to pop a leader or 2 throughout a game could be very clutch, and it can certainly do that. I think it's really going to depend on its points. And you know, like, it's a feel-bad game experience to lose your favorite character model turn 1 to a stupid sniper. And that's just a feel-bad thing for the game to be able to do to you. And so I can see that they might not want to make the Vindicare too good. And it's always been Vindicare's too good or the Vindicare's too crappy. It can never find a common medium of being able to snipe out characters. It's just a bad mechanic. And so it's always too high or too low points. And it's always better that it's not good. For the game, it's better that it's not good. You don't want every single Imperium army running Vindicare assassins. So I personally feel like they should make it not good for the good of the game. The Calexis is kind of interesting. You can kill it like normal now. It's not a only hit on 6's thing, so that really reduces its utility. It's obviously good against Psychers in melee and shooting. It can deep strike, has 2 up feel no pain against psychic attacks, and it affects leadership because it's scary. But again, it's going to be points, kind of meh overall. The Eversur, I feel, is definitely meh. I don't feel like he actually does that much. He moves faster, anti-infantry everything, and every team, it can basically advance and shoot and charge every turn if you want it, or gain precision, sustain hits. Like, it's got some flexibility, but overall, I mean, it depends on his points, but it's just kind of meh. And the Custodes is kind of interesting. So the shooting is precision, a precision flamer with anti-infantry 2+, but only does 1 damage. It melees with lethal hits and precision for 2 damage and 5 attacks. So it will kill characters without invulns, although it seems like a lot of leaders have invulns these days. It can either infiltrate or deep strike and has fight first. And once per battle, you can increase somebody's stratagem by 1 CP for the rest of the game. And then once a game, it can leave and deep strike at the end of the opponent's turn. So there's a lot going on with the Custodes, and there's a lot of interesting utility there. Way better than it used to be with the whole 3-inch charge thing, which never worked because you have to roll for it. And so I think if the Custodes is pointed well, we might see the Custodes because it's a useful little surgical knife type model that's hard to screen out, and so many ways of putting it into play. So I kind of like the Custodes the best out of all the assassins, but we'll have to see what their points are. Okay, so these guys are kind of funny. The Rogue Trader Entourage. It's this weird leader unit that's made up of multiple models. So those multiple models join Breachers or Voidsmans, whatever. We're not even going to talk about their weapons or whatever. But the units that they lead have Infiltrate, which is interesting. These guys allow D3 Imperium battle line, so that means our prosecutors and guardians, to redeploy, which now first of all, it's annoying that it's D3 because does that still exist anymore? But the redeploy is really interesting because of course we don't have Castellan's Mark anymore. So that is interesting. And so these guys in a unit of cheap Breachers or Voidsmen, I don't know how many points that's going to be. Is that worth the ability to redeploy Guardians? It might be, and then they can also infiltrate onto the field and hold some objectives or something and be a throwaway unit. So just a little bit of use here, these guys with funny hats and face shields. So I kind of like it. We'll see how many points they are. Okay, and then the next data sheets are the Voidsmen, the Breachers, the Subductor guys, and the Exaction guys, and the Vigilant guys. So while they are all awesome models that I really like, Nothing of particular interests me about them. Suffice it to say, though, we might see them if their points are competitive enough that we can just run them as cheap objective holders instead of sisters. But you know, we'll see. We'll see. We won't talk anymore about them. So, Inquisitors. So, Draxus. Just to point out for Draxus the important things. So, all the Inquisitors can lead Imperium battle line or the Inquisition units. So, you could put your Inquisitors with Guardians, but then you're not putting one of our leaders with the Guardians. That just doesn't seem worth it. Anyway, she has a bunch of things, blah, blah, blah. It does give +1 to hit against anything other than Imperium and Chaos, but of course we don't really need +1 to hit. And Psychic Veil basically is another ability where you can't target it unless you're within 18 inches, which is still pretty far away. But on a 1, when you roll it, you take mortals. So it's kind of meh. I mean, I think, you know, it depends how many points she's going to be. If she's going to be like 80, 100 points, it's probably not going to be worth it. Not with Alea and stuff and all these other characters we have to run, which will probably be similar points. I don't see it. So next is Big Daddy Kodiaz and his Demon Hammer. His Demon Hammer is pretty decent, you know, 9, -3, 3 damage, but he hits on 3s only. He only has 3 attacks. And he has a Feel No Pain, and, you know, he gets CP on a 2+, when your opponent uses an ability to gain CP. So it's not even a CP refund ability. It's not really that useful, probably. So, you know, yeah. So much for Kodiaz. Greyfax. So Greyfax has an interesting crossbow, anti-character 4+, precision, psychic, and dev wounds at 8, -2, 3 damage. So that's pretty nifty, except that it's hitting on 3s and it's only 1 shot. So it's probably not going to do that much in the end. But if you get that little bolt through, like you'd be applauding her efforts. And the lead unit gets anti-psyker 4+ for ranged attacks. So if we end up in a meta of Grey Knights and Thousand Suns and Demon Psychers and Eldar Psychers, if she's competitively priced, now you turn your double shooting Guardians into anti-psyker 4+. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Because those 2 damage shots, you know, yeah, that's pretty nice. I can see that happening if the meta goes that way. If it doesn't, then meh. Okay, this loser, Karamazov, I mean, it's nothing to say here. He just messes around with people's leadership. The base Inquisitor is, you know, not much here, except that the lead unit gets 3+ Feel Pain against mortals. We already have army-wide 4+, so not a big deal for us, but might be for other Inquisition. Obviously, these people can join Inquisition armies, Imperial armies. And Eisenhorn, I don't know. I'm not going to spend time on him. Meh. Henchmen, not much to talk about in the Henchmen. There's just a lot of stuff to look here, and it's all kind of mess. So, okay. So, there we go. Imperial. So, we'll end the poll. 88% were hype, 12% were maybe, and nobody was not hype. So that is great. I am super hyped. I'm super hyped to get the points on Friday. I'm super hyped to get the missions and to build some lists. Play it a few times next week, including on stream, probably Thursday night. So stay tuned for the schedule. Oh, one more thing to show you guys. So this is from the Titans YouTube channel when they were playing Custodes versus Dark Angels, I think. And this is their list. So there's no points on here because obviously they're not allowed to give out the points. But seems like, you know, so here is like 21 infantry models, 24. Then there's 3 Buffy characters. And then Alea. And 3 units of girls and the Land Raider. That seems like a lot of stuff for 2,000 points. So we'll see. But it's just a small indication maybe that our points are okay. So we'll see. But that was an interesting thing from earlier tonight. Okay, guys. It's late. Thank you very much for joining me with this run through of our data sheets. You'll probably see me again sometime over the weekend once we get our points. And then next week for sure, we're going to play some games live here on stream with our first lists. We're going to probably just try everything, make a list of, you know, almost like a Highlander style, one of everything, try it all out. And we're going to have a great time with the edition right around the corner. So thanks very much for joining and following. Hope you enjoyed the show. Think about subscribing, following us, supporting the channel, and have a good night. We'll see you guys next time.